This is Hustle and Pro with Kelly Walker. Join Kelly as she talks sports with players, coaches, organizers, and entrepreneurs from Pee Wee League to Pro. Now here's your host, Kelly Walker.
Welcome to Hustle and Pro. On today's episode, we're talking to Jackson Bourne. Jackson wrestles for the Reedy High School wrestling team. Welcome, Jackson.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So let's jump in to a couple quick hits to get to know you and some things about you a little bit better. So, who would you say is your favorite athlete of all time?
Of all time, I'd probably say Jordan Burroughs. He's an Olympic gold medalist and Olympic bronze medalist for wrestling.
I don't know him. That's a first so far. I haven't had anybody say that before. So that's good. So is wrestling your favorite sport to watch?
Yes, it is.
It is? And is it your favorite thing to do as far as sports go?
My favorite sport to probably play or just like mess around doing is probably like football or something.
Okay.
But I didn't really get like big enough to play football until like this year. Like all my other years I was like, I think I broke 5 foot freshman year. So, and I just didn't play football after that.
Yeah. But you like to play?
Yeah, I like to play.
Just for fun?
Mm-hmm.
So we might get into this in a minute, but I always like to know what's the farthest distance that you've traveled to either like wrestle yourself or to watch some other sport. So I think I know your answer from something you just got to do recently.
Yeah, I went to the Olympic Training Center.
So where's that?
Colorado Springs.
Okay. Is that the farthest distance you think you've gone for wrestling, or have you traveled farther?
I've been to North Dakota.
Oh.
And I've been to New York.
So one other thing. Do you have any superstitions that like you have to do on match day or whatever you call it in wrestling?
No, not really, but I always wear like Nike socks.
Oh, you got to have the Nike socks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so I want to learn about your story. I don't know much about wrestling yet. You're my first wrestler I've had on here, but I want to know how you got into it. Since it's not like one of the most common sports that people I talk to, how'd you find it? How old were you? Tell me about it.
Well, I was 4 years old when I started wrestling, and I got into it because my dad wrestled in middle school, but when he moved like his 8th grade year and his high school didn't have wrestling, so he didn't wrestle in high school, so I just picked it up when I was 4, and I've been doing it ever since.
So did he stop? So if he didn't have it in his high school, he didn't have any way to do it anymore, so he was done?
Yes, ma'am, he was done.
Oh, okay. So then, does he help you out, knowing
Yeah,
the sport?
sometimes he does.
Do you like that he knows the sport?
Sometimes I don't.
So you started when you were 4.
Yes.
So like, where do you wrestle as a 4-year-old?
Well, I've been part of the Frisco Bombers Wrestling Club since then. I still am, and at that time it was run out of Centennial with Mike Eaton and Darren Snyder, and Darren Snyder now is my assistant wrestling coach at Reedy.
Oh, wow. So you've known these guys your whole lives wrestling
Mm-hmm.
with them. So you started at 4, and then, how do you start getting, like, competitive? I mean, I assume it's kind of like when kids take karate or taekwondo or something, and they're just learning it, right, as a sport. But then at what age do you start competing in wrestling?
I think I competed that year, probably.
Oh, as that little?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Because they have, like, youth divisions and stuff, but I didn't really start taking it seriously until probably, like, 7th or 8th grade.
Okay. What other sports did you play then, I guess, in middle school? Sounds like you focused on wrestling mostly. But you mentioned football, but not playing, and like in high school. Did you play other sports when you were younger?
When I was like 3, 4, 5, I played soccer, but I didn't play after that. And I played football from 1st grade to 8th grade, I think. Yeah.
No, like track or running sports or conditioning type of off-season sports?
Mm-mm.
Because I'm guessing, right? I don't know a lot about wrestling yet, but you're very fit, right? You have to be.
Yes.
I mean, you have to be strong and fit, but I would assume you also have to do a lot of conditioning. So I'd think there'd be some other sports and other seasons that condition you, or no?
Well, wrestling's pretty much like year-long, so you don't really have to worry about getting into anything else to stay in shape.
You work out all year.
Mm-hmm.
So explain to me then how it works. Like, you wrestle for your high school,
Mm-hmm.
but then you also wrestle in a club as well still?
Mm-hmm.
So explain to me like the seasonality. Like what are you doing year round, or who are you wrestling for, and what does that look like?
Well, like today, my schedule, like I have practice at school from 2:40 to 5:30, and then I go home and I eat and drink a little, and then I go to club practice from 7:30 to 9.
Oh, wow. So you are actively wrestling for two different things at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the competition schedule look like for high school? Like what's your season for high school wrestling?
Off season, we lift 5 times a week and run twice a week, and during season, we lift 3 times a week, and we don't really run much because wrestling practice is pretty much cardio the whole time.
Explain to me, for somebody like me who doesn't really know how it all is structured and set up. So there's like weight classes, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I know you have to, well, I don't know how often you have to like weigh in to determine what weight class you're going to wrestle in for what competition or whatever. So just kind of explain how that works and how they're set, like how many are there and what are they?
There's 14 weight classes, and I guess I'll just list them out. It's 106, 113, 120, 126, 132, 138, 145, 152, 160, 170, 182, 195, 220, and heavyweight, which is 285 and under.
Oh my gosh. That's really like a small margin of difference between each one.
Mm-hmm.
So are you committed to one weight class for one competition, one match, one season? Like how often do you get moved up or down from a weight class?
Usually you pick your weight class at the beginning of the season and you stick to it the whole time.
Oh, okay. So if you commit to one, I don't know, one of the ones you just said, so what happens if you, I mean, how do you control? You have to control staying in that with this, I mean, is that like a 7-pound swing? Like what were how much room do you have?
Yeah, it's about like 7-8 pounds. Once you get heavier, it's like closer to 10, and then you saw the 220, 285, which is pretty much.
Oh, okay. Gap. Okay. So when you've picked your weight class, how do you stay in it? Like, I mean, I'm sure it's very strategic, right?
Mm-hmm. We have like very strict meal plans to stay on. Like pretty much we just don't. My team, we all pretty much do the same meal plan, which is just like eggs and rice for breakfast, and then chicken and broccoli for dinner and lunch.
You've been doing it for so long, you're probably really used to it by now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Does your family eat as healthy as you do?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
You do your own thing?
Yes, ma'am.
And they eat their own meals?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go out? Do you eat it when you go out to restaurants?
Yes,
you
but
do.
I usually get like fajitas and then just eat the fajita meat or whatever.
Wow. So what happens during a season if you move up or down in a weight class? Like you get weighed in before a competition or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you're out of that range?
You don't wrestle.
You just sit out?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Does that happen a lot?
Not really. It's like if it happens, everyone's talking about it. Like
it's a problem?
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a big deal?
Mm-hmm.
And then your coaches are upset with you because you didn't watch all your food and all that good stuff. So I would think that would be one of the that would be obviously for me like the hardest thing to watch that carefully. And I can't even imagine like constantly having to think about staying in a 5-pound range of for my weight. So what would you say is the biggest obstacles that you overcome as a high school student athlete who's obviously got school and it's your senior year and you're wrestling for a club and all the things you have going on? What's the hardest part?
The hardest part is definitely what you just said, just staying on top of the diet and everything like that. Just drinking a gallon a day and making sure your meals are on point.
A gallon a day?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay, so explain to me how like teammates work in a sport like wrestling. That I feel like it's a solo sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you? Well, like how many guys at your high school wrestle or people? Females also wrestle,
yes.
Right? So how many? Like, what's on your wrestling team?
We actually have like one of the smaller teams in the district. I think we have like 30 kids, but schools like Centennial and Liberty, they have like 50, 60, 70 kids.
Wrestlers?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I had no idea. That's a lot. That's a big group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you guys, when you're wrestling as a team, is it truly individual, or does everybody's points accumulate as a team and get you guys qualified for different things as a team?
It's kind of both. Like, when one team goes against another team, we call it a duel. And we have, I want to say, like 12 duels a year against pretty much all the Frisco teams and a couple other teams outside the district. And pretty much if you, like, take them down to their back and you hold them there, it's 6 points. And then, like, if you, like, I guess you could call it like a run rule in baseball, but with points in wrestling. If you're up by 15, the match ends.
It's over.
And then just winning gets you like 3 points and all that.
What do you normally, like, what's a normal match point? Like, what do you play to? Or what do you go to point-wise?
You wrestle for 6 minutes.
Oh, so it's not points at all.
Mm-mm.
It's just time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I knew that. Sorry.
It's all right.
I need to come to a wrestling match, clearly, because I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how it works. So it's 6 minutes, and so it's whoever has the most points at the end of the 6 minutes. It's 6 minutes straight, or is it like a minute and pause, 2 minutes, like
it's
rounds?
3 2-minute rounds.
3 2-minute rounds. Okay. And you said 6 points for something. Like, what are all the ways to score a point?
Takedown, like where you just put them on their butt or you get behind them, is 2 points. And if you hold them on their back for 5 seconds, it's 3 points. But if you can only hold them for 2 seconds, it's 2 points. And if you get out from underneath somebody, it's 1 point.
Oh, okay. So can you take somebody down and get the points for that and hold them down this time and get, like, it piles up?
Yes, ma'am.
Ooh. Like, when you are on your top of your game and the 6 minutes is up, what's like a really good point total to have for that match?
I mean, usually anywhere from above 10 is a good amount of points scored.
Okay. So if you get into the double digits, you're doing good.
Yes,
What's your highest? Do you know your highest you've ever gotten?
No, I have no clue.
Well, like, I mean, you ever gotten like 30 points? Or is that not even a thing that's possible?
I have never gotten 30 points.
Nothing goes that high. Has anybody ever gotten 30 points on you?
No.
Okay. That's good. What about injuries? I'm assuming this sport is rough on your body?
Yes, statistically, it's really one of like the lowest, like, average injuries per year, but I've had a lot of injuries in high school.
What have you come across?
I didn't really get injured until my freshman year. I broke my growth plate in my wrist, and then I don't even know if I can name them all. My sophomore year, I dislocated my shoulder like 5 or 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I had like 4 MRIs, and then the last one showed that I had like a small tear in my labrum.
Did you have to get that repaired or just wait it out and rehab it on your own?
I just waited out and rehabbed it.
Did that put you out for a while?
Yes, I actually won districts my sophomore year, and then the Tuesday after that is when my last shoulder dislocation happened, and that's when they found the labrum tear. I didn't wrestle like the rest of that year.
Okay. Oh, after districts, but you could have. Like you qualified to do that, and then you had to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were wrestling, when you won districts, were you in pain? Like, did you know something was wrong?
Yeah, it had been like a problem since like Christmas break.
Gosh. So, what are any other injuries, or is that your biggest?
Last year, my junior year, I tore my meniscus also over Christmas break, and I just decided that I was gonna wait it out until like districts to see how I was feeling and everything, and then once districts came around, I wrestled districts. I got second at districts, and then the regionals came, and I was winning in the state or in the regional semifinals against the kid who ends up winning state the next weekend, and he does something funky, and my knee like hyperextends, and like it just hurts much more, and I mean, I finished the match, but he ends up beating me, and it ends up I had to forfeit all my other matches. I end up like placing 6th at regional, so I don't qualify for state. And then I think 2 days after the state tournament happened, I had knee surgery to get it repaired.
So when was that?
Last February.
So your junior year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. But it was near the end, almost the end of it.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you got most of your actual wrestling time in that year.
Well, not really.
Not really?
I think I rotated my sacrum. I don't know what it's called.
Something like in your back, like a back
It's
injury?
like your tailbone.
Oh, okay.
And that was very painful, and I was out for like 2 weeks there.
Man,
Yeah.
that is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of injuries you've had to be patient and work through, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me more about going to the Olympic training facility. What's the story like? How did you get to even go do that, and what was the experience like? I feel like I have in my head what I would think it's gonna. You're walking in this grand, awesome facility, but so tell me the story behind you getting to do that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but the guy I mentioned earlier, Mike Eaton, he coached me when I was 4. He now coaches at Lucas Lovejoy. He's the head wrestling coach there. And their wrestling team was going up there over a weekend, and they had a couple of open spots, and he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, yeah, sure, definitely.
Were you guys just did you get to work out there? And so is this a facility that's just like for wrestling, or is this the same facility that other sports use?
Yeah, this is the same facility that every sport uses.
Okay.
I think this is the main training center for the Olympians.
That's what I'm picturing in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big open, I don't know. I even have a pool in my head and everything. Was all of that there?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see anybody cool when you were there?
Well, you probably don't know him, but he just won Worlds. His name is Jaden Cox. He wrestles, but
I don't know him.
yeah.
So what age group, like how old is this person?
I think he's 25 or, yeah, but there's people wrestling at Jordan Burroughs, the guy I mentioned earlier. He still wrestles, and I think he's like 34.
I was going to ask you, like at what point do wrestlers age out? I mean, is that common to have a 34-year-old like competitively wrestling still?
I think it's pretty old, but I don't know if I've ever... I'm pretty old
Sounds
to be
so
wrestling.
old.
Pretty old to be wrestling, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know of anybody wrestling in their 40s or anything past that.
Yeah, that might be a little tough, especially after all those injuries like somebody like you has had. So how long did you get to be there? And what did you do when you were there? Did you guys like actually wrestle and work out?
Yeah, we had like 2 or 3 workouts a day, and we were just training in the mat room of the Olympic Training Center. It was pretty cool.
You're about halfway through your senior year, right, of high school, right? So what is the next steps for you? Like, are you wanting to wrestle in college, and what does that look like at this point?
Yes, ma'am. I do want to wrestle in college, and right now I'm looking at Ouachita Baptist University. It's a D2 school in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And I'm hoping... I've been accepted there. I'm just talking with the coach, hoping things go well.
Yeah. So do you have family in Arkansas?
I do.
Do you know anybody at that school? It sounds like, is it a smaller school,
Yes,
right?
it's a smaller
So do you know anybody at that school already? Like, what made you pick that school of all?
I didn't know anyone there. I've just been to a couple of the camps there. Like, I think the first one I went to, the coach said that he was interested, and he said he would keep following me. And then last year I went to a second one, and he asked me if I wanted to come on my official visit, and I said yeah. And then we had my official visit a month and a half ago or so. It was pretty good.
What's next then? You have to just decide and see if there's a spot for you, basically? You guys have to
much.
both make it work.
Yes, ma'am.
See if it matches up. So if you don't end up there, where do you see yourself?
I don't know, but I just know I want to wrestle in college. That's really...
What are some of the schools that your teammates are going to? If they already know yet. I know it's early.
Yeah.
Especially since your season really hasn't happened just yet.
One of my teammates, he wants to go to some D3, I'm not sure what branch of the military it is, but he wants to wrestle there. I think that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. What are your goals for this upcoming season you're about to enter into?
My goal is to be a state champ this year, and I want to get over 100 career wins.
Oh, wow. What are you at now?
I think I'm at like 67 or something like that.
So over 100 is attainable, obviously, if that's a goal you've set for yourself. How many wins did you get last year? Well, you were hurt some.
Yeah,
so.
last year I only had 7, and the year before I only had 12. But the year before that, I think I had 49, something like that.
So you've set these goals. Mm-hmm. Is this your own individual goal, or is like this is your your team goal?
My team's not really at the level yet to win a state championship, but I think we could win regionals and districts probably. It's just everyone has to go out and compete. That's all it really comes down to.
But you yourself can.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Is there something like certain steps that you have to focus on and do to get that done? Or certain people you have your sights set on or something like that?
No, I don't really know of many people at my weight, just because I'm wrestling at the same weight I was last year, and most people have moved up.
What weight do you wrestle at?
I'm going 138 this year.
Okay. So I'm guessing you would see the same guys. Right? If you've been doing this long in the same area, surely you have opponents that keep coming up, right?
Yes, but like my sophomore year, I wrestled 113, and then last year I wrestled 138, so it was like a big jump, and I never really saw the same guys that I used to see.
Do you ever come up against opponents that you're like friends with? That
yes.
You know? That you do wrestle with otherwise, like in your club or something?
I have a couple times, yes.
That's probably pretty interesting. With such a sport, people play against their friends all the time, but in team sports and different things, it's, I don't know, unless you're like exactly matched up with them, you might not even really like come up against them. But in wrestling, it's one-on-one, and it's just you against them. It's probably pretty intense, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you psych yourself up for such a like solo activity that you are your own, nobody's out there but you, right? Determining win or lose. So how do you do that?
I usually listen to music until like I'm like 2 matches away from being up, and then I put my headgear on and I just watch the matches that go before me and don't really think about much.
Just get in the zone. Mm-hmm. You must have a lot of self-control, right? You have to.
Sometimes, yeah.
But also confidence to be able to, because if you don't have confidence, are you going to be able to go out there and beat anybody?
No, ma'am.
Right. So where did that come from?
I think it's really just like manifested over the years, because I used to get like really nervous before my matches, and now it's not half as bad as it used to be.
More comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's probably from being prepared, right? As long as you put in the work, sounds like you put in the work a couple times a day, every day, you're more confident to come out there and perform.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for teaching me a little bit about wrestling, and we'll be watching to see how you do. And so what's your goals to get to state? So that's like February time frame? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll be thinking about you and rooting for you. Thank you for taking time in between your workouts to come talk to us.
Thank you for having me.